Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at KAKM Studios for Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy, and I'll be hosting this evening's show. And fire danger improved a little bit up here to the west and also over the southwest with cooler, cloudier conditions, higher humidities, temperatures in the 50s this afternoon over the southwest interior. And that same sort of pattern going on up here along the coast, Norton Sound up in toward the Noatak Valley, but still in the 80s this afternoon, so extreme fire danger here in the northeast and still a little bit there in the west central interior and also up on the north slope. I haven't seen any rain up there, so kind of high in that area as well. There are some thunderstorms breaking out up there over the eastern north slope this afternoon, some scattered lightning strikes anyway up in that area. A lot of sun here to the south, and then more clouds there from about the Fairbanks area on down into the Copper River Basin, south central Alaska. Pretty cloudy morning, and then breaking out to some sunshine here, especially the greater Anchorage area anyway. But more clouds on down to the south, and a boundary here, trough across the southwest, producing this narrow band of higher top clouds, extending all the way down into Bristol Bay and actually kind of linking up here near Kodiak on down to the southeast, and clouds rolling up across the Queen Charlotte's and Dixon entrance this afternoon. Actually there most of the day here, as you can see, kind of a spin there just east of the Queen Charlotte Islands, circulating some moisture, maybe a few showers in, but nothing too significant. A little bit more in the way of some partial clearing over the central panhandle, and then some isolated showers on back to the north. Bering Sea, lots of clouds, fog, drizzle, light rain, summertime conditions out there with light winds. And then it looks like it breaks out though from west of Adak out toward Shemya, and then the next frontal boundary pushing eastward fairly rapidly for summertime conditions. I've heard it called racing into the western Bering Sea. And that'll continue to push eastward here over the next couple of days. High pressure holding at least for another 1 or 2 more days here aloft over the interior as most of the storminess or moisture continues to track off mainly to the north or splits off and drops off to the southeast. Then looks like we're going to go into a pretty wet pattern. This afternoon, thunderstorms isolated breaking out from about the Talkeetnas up to the eastern Alaska range, a little more widespread, but not all that widespread here over the eastern interior. On back to the west a little bit, and then up across the eastern north slope areas. At least the last time I checked, hadn't reached quite out to the Arctic coast, but they may have as of this time. Otherwise, scattered showers the southeast coast, enhancing there with that low near the Queen Charlotte Islands. And that'll continue to affect the southern panhandle there tonight. Isolated showers, cloudy skies, Kodiak Island, but winds light and nothing in the way of any significant precipitation at all. That same pattern northwestward along that trough axis there across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. So much cooler today, cloudier conditions farther to the east, even into the Kuskokwim Valley. More clouds, and that extends back up across Norton Sound and actually into the Noatak Valley as upper disturbance slowly lifts northward here, a little farther to the west, and that keeping that marine layer thicker and farther east than it had been. Out to the west, warm front moisture here spreading northeastward into the Pribilof Islands and then back to the west, and that front spreading some rain in across the western Aleutians. Tonight that'll push eastward. Again, we'll race eastward here to about the Adak area or just past Adak and sit on top of Atka at about 4 a.m. in the morning with the warm front moisture again mostly pushing off to the north there, upper level high pressure holding over the central interior. So that'll initially direct most of this due north. So low IFR or IFR to low IFR conditions from the Bering Strait tonight, St. Lawrence Island, across much of the Bering Sea with showers over the western Aleutians and staying mostly dry, but this area thunderstorms at least forecast to persist much of the night tonight here over the eastern interior, but to a lesser extent, and some isolated strikes probably occurring along that trough back to the northwest toward the western Brooks Range, the western mountains up here. Variably cloudy, mostly dry and variably cloudy for the north slope, and then increasing areas of low clouds and fog now for the central and eastern Arctic coast. There were that high sitting to the north, that east-northeasterly flow, which will actually be picking up over the next couple of days to probably 25 knots on Monday, but not tomorrow. Otherwise, still a chance of showers, mostly cloudy skies. Nothing too terrible there in the way of rainfall for the southern panhandle, and still some isolated shower chances up there from Yakutat to Elfin Cove, maybe to Haines and Skagway. June will probably escape that. Dry North Gulf Coast, variably cloudy. Dry Bristol Bay, variably cloudy, as well as much of the interior, some isolated showers here, the southern interior along the mountainous terrain. Otherwise, pretty fair conditions holding. And taking a look at tomorrow, we'll see that that front really doesn't move much farther to the east, or actually another development comes westward or eastward here, and the other one lifts up to the north there. But we'll have a band of light rain, drizzle, fog, and IFR from the Bering Strait southward here along the southwest coast of Nunivak Island. That'll link up with this mass of moisture with a warm front there, and that will keep it socked in for the Pribilofs and even the eastern Aleutians. Not so bad for the Alaska Peninsula, but cloudy skies though, and some scattered shower activity or drizzle. Otherwise dry and sunny here, mostly sunny for the western interior, maybe some isolated showers showing up over the eastern Seward Peninsula. And then partly to mostly sunny here, south central Alaska. Afternoon showers developing. Looks like most of the thunderstorm activity along the eastern border here. And again, back to the northwest there into the Brooks Range along that trough axis with more stable conditions down here to the south. So even these showers probably won't even have a chance to develop into any type of thunderstorm activity. And for the panhandle, more moisture, better chance of rain tomorrow. Mostly cloudy, showery conditions there. But dry for Kodiak Island, maybe some sunshine. And moving ahead to Monday, that system pushes eastward here right up to the coastline. So rain and increasing winds south, 20 to 25 knots, we'll call it, right up in toward Norton Sound. Wet conditions, IFR from Bristol Bay. Actually, the southern Bering Sea here along that front, and in advance of it, all the way up to the western Arctic coast. Pretty wet conditions. Otherwise, holding pretty nice here over the interior for at least one more day, but on Tuesday, the southwest flow will push eastward, and so we'll probably be looking at downward trend, or at least wetter conditions pushing into the interior, at least the western interior areas on Tuesday. Otherwise, lower clouds will keep it mostly cloudy here for south central Alaska. And actually, marginal VFR persisting into the afternoon across Cook Inlet, which implies lower cloud cover with that, and some isolated showers to go along with it, but nothing significant in the way of rainfall. About the same for the Copper River Basin, probably less in the way of low clouds. Isolated thunderstorms possible now over toward the eastern border with this trough. So really getting lots more stable here, especially as this system approaches from the west. Maybe some isolated thunderstorms possible there for the central Brooks Range, south side northern Koyukuk Valley, and that's it. Another mostly sunny day, mild temperatures in the north slope, low clouds and fog. Eastern Arctic coast, so pretty low conditions expected along the entire coastline there, with the moisture back to the west and then the lower stuff to the east. And mostly cloudy day, scattered showers for the panhandle. Temperatures down that way this afternoon were right around 60 there for Craig and Klawock, with a 61-degree reading at Wrangell. Otherwise, Petersburg 59, Elfin Cove 54, 56 at Skagway, Stewart 57, and 55 at Yakutat. A little warmer at Cordova, closer to 60 there with 59, 57 in Whittier. Seward about the same, as well as Homer, 56, Kodiak, 63 in Kenai. And Talkeetna, 67 degrees, didn't quite make 70, at least yet. And for Gulkana, 70 degrees even. Fairbanks, same temperature, and definitely cooler up here in the interior until you get into the upper Yukon Valley, Yukon Flats area. Fort Yukon at 84 degrees, 80 at Bettles, 73 Anaktuvik, and near 70 there at Tusuk. Otherwise lower to mid 40s out along the Arctic coast, lower to mid 50s here on the west side, upper 50s there in northwest Alaska, 50s across the Seward Peninsula, all the way down, much cooler here over the southwest interior with 50s at Bethel, up to 63 though at Sleepmute, and McGrath, 68 degrees. For the southwest or out in the Bering Sea, mid to upper 40s for the Pribilofs, mid to upper 50s Alaska Peninsula, although on Alaska at 51. Kind of a range here, Atka 48. Obviously some sunshine breaking out at Adak with 59 degrees, and then back down to 45 at Shimia. Lows tonight in the 40s out there for the Aleutians, not much change from what you're seeing now in some areas there. And upper 40s for the Pribilofs, all the way up to mid 40s St. Lawrence Island, near 50 here along the coast, and then into the mid 50s to near 60 central northeast interior areas, but down a little bit from what they have been, and upper 40s to mid 50s south central Alaska, lower 50s across the Panhandle, and mid 30s to the central Arctic coast there, otherwise lower 40s. Highs for tomorrow, definitely seeing a downward trend here. Now all of the interior central and eastern areas in that call it 75 to 80 degree range, with continued 50s to lower 60s here in the west. Cooler conditions all the way up into the Noatak Valley, near 50 Arctic coast, and still kind of a cooling trend, but not too bad there for the North Slope. Upper 50s to lower 60s for the Panhandle. Flying weather tomorrow, lots of IFR expected anywhere out over the Bering Sea. Best conditions here in the southeast bearing to the Alaska Peninsula. IFR staying off the coast here in the western Gulf of Alaska, but marginal VFR in the forecast for all of the Panhandle, up in across Prince William Sound. Tomorrow afternoon, that holds here over Prince William Sound eastward, up across the Wrangels there into the 40-mile country and over the northern Panhandle. Solid, or well, probably not solid, but a good chance of seeing IFR anywhere out over the Bering Sea there, but staying off the coast just a little bit. IFR pulling back off the eastern Arctic coast, hopefully. Anaktuvik and Adigan, both VFR are either approach tomorrow. And Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR, also for rainy. Another good day for windy, but those passes will probably be coming down on Tuesday. And for Isabel, VFR, Mentasta, VFR, possibly becoming marginal with some building moisture rolling in. And then for Tenita, though, VFR, no problems for Portage, VFR conditions there. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR, may go VFR in the afternoon tomorrow, especially late. And for the freezing levels, not a big change here. We're looking at 8 to 10,000 feet. Warmest air aloft, eastern interior, back to the northwest coast, and 8,000 feet northern Bering Sea, and some typical 12,000 foot freezing levels here for late July in across the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And for icing, a band here from the Bering Strait southward along the west coast to about Nunivak Island, but staying west of Bristol Bay, down to just about the Fox Islands. Another zone up here of mixed icing, areas of over the eastern interior, back to the northwest along the convection zone, and northern Panhandle could see some rime icing above about 8,000 feet, but nothing too serious. And the jet stream, again, high pressure holding tomorrow, probably Monday as well. This upper low tracking northward there and putting a kink in across the Seward Peninsula. Southwest flow behind that, back here 120 knots. That's going to be advancing eastward over the next couple of days and probably kind of crashing into the ridge here and breaking it down a little bit. Otherwise, 33,000 feet over the Panhandle, looking northerly at 50, but west-northwest at about 10 here at 9,000 feet. So not as good as what you'd think with offshore flow aloft there. But anyway, light winds over southern Alaska, 5 to 15 over all of the interior. Stronger winds out here to the west up to 35 knots here along the southwest coast to 30 knots across St. Lawrence Island, and increasing southwest flow also at 3,000 feet, 20 to 25, picks up to 35 knots here, Bering Strait down to Nunivak Island, 30 knotters there down to the Pribilofs, but lighter for the eastern Aleutians. Lighter winds here, ridging southern Alaska, west-northwest, 5 to 15, maybe up to 20 knots in isolated areas over the interior. And for turbulence, none expected here over much of the interior and the southeast coast, just where the winds pick up. All of the Aleutians like to very isolate and moderate chop, Alaska Peninsula northward along the west coast through the Bering Strait to, say, Kivalina, Point Hope, and Cape Lisburne. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts. Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me today is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. And Cindy, we hear a lot about tsunamis in the news, probably a lot more than we used to, but let's remind everybody, what is a tsunami?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Sure.
Tsunami is basically, it's really simple. It's just a disturbance in the water column. So the entire water column from the seafloor to the sea surface is disturbed by something major. Usually a major earthquake. But it can also be a volcanic eruption, even an asteroid. Landslide is especially dangerous.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in my bathtub and I drop a bath toy, that could be a bathtub tsunami.
It is absolutely a bathtub tsunami.
Okay, very good. So Alaska is one of the states, or maybe the state, with the greatest amount of coastline. So tsunamis are a pretty major risk here in Alaska. Who is most at risk?
Yeah, Alaska is significant. We actually make most of the Pacific's tsunamis.
Wow, okay.
On the Aleutian Trench. And it's where the Pacific Plate is subducting underneath the American Plate. And we produce some very large, great quakes. And of course, the most at risk is the Aleutian Trench.
Okay.
But that extends into south central Alaska as well. They're at huge risk. And then southeast Alaska's risk is really mostly landslide focused.
Okay. Are there any places along the Alaskan coastline that don't have a tsunami risk, or at least a very, very low risk?
Absolutely. The Bering Sea's risk is very low, and the Arctic's risk is very low as well.
Okay, so when we're talking about tsunami dangers, those are places that need to be monitored, but probably not really.
No, I mean, I won't say never.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know
You can't.
better.
Science knows better.
Right. So,
Very good.
near to never.
Okay. Well, let's just say you're on the coast anywhere in Alaska. What are warning signs that tsunami dangers are threatening you right now?
This is super important because Alaska's greatest risk, especially out on the Aleutians and South Central, is a near-field tsunami, and then of course the landslides in southeast. It's even more intense because we can't.
So shorter warning time.
No warning time.
Okay.
The earthquake is the warning.
Okay.
And that is the most important thing for anybody to remember. The water can arrive in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, at the National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, we need to get the warning out in 5 minutes. So for those near-field tsunamis, it's the earthquake is the warning. So if you feel shaking, and of course the first thing you do is drop, cover, and hold, and you need to start counting slowly to 20.
The right way. How do you do that?
Oh, I teach kids to do it with their favorite things. So 1 chocolate, 2 chocolate, 3 chocolate, but you can count anything you like. And if you're thinking of something happy, that helps. Especially helps kids, but it'll help your psyche.
So you don't speed up because you're getting stressed out.
Right. It actually lowers your heart rate.
Interesting.
You know, so if you think of something you love and practice that. So you're in an earthquake, you're under the table, you're next to the ocean. Right. This is important if you're next to the ocean. If you're not next to the ocean, don't worry about it. Just stay in place under cover.
And you're talking about a mile, a quarter mile? What's close?
A mile, even a couple miles. You know, our rule of thumb used to be a mile inland was safe, but the last few tsunamis have taught us otherwise. So, yeah, you know, in Japan we had inundation up to 10 miles. So.
And that was a big quake.
That was a big quake.
So you have a quake, you're counting slowly to 20.
To 20.
What's next?
And if you get to 20 and it's still shaking, you need to evacuate. And that is, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because you're evacuating in a live event that's still shaking. You know, 1964 shook for 4.5 minutes. Indonesia shook for 12 minutes.
Wow.
Japan, I think, shook for 6. I'm not sure of that, but it was long. Anyway, more than 20 seconds.
And that's a sign of a very major earthquake, the worst.
Well, 20 seconds is a magnitude 7, so that's not the worst. But what a magnitude 7 can do is trigger a landslide. And those landslides might be a submarine landslide, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't know it, and then the water's moving. So that's really, really, really dangerous. That's what happened in '64 first. Seward, Valdez, Whittier all had landslides first.
And when you're talking about the water,
the water is a warning sign too. What happens with the water that gives you a very easy visual sign that something's changing?
Not guaranteed. It might go out. It might go way out really fast enough to leave the fish behind. But that's not guaranteed. It might just be a fast flood instead.
Okay.
So either way, if it's acting like a super fast rising tide, faster than a tide should rise,
Right.
get out of there.
Okay.
And if it goes out really fast, get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, we lost a lot of lives because people will go check out the new tide pools or
Sure.
pick up fish or shells or, you know, so, and it should feel weird.
Right.
You know, it should be weird.
So pay attention to those natural warning signs and how you feel, because those are maybe the only clues you have.
Right, and you know, sound also. You can hear a tsunami. It'll sound like a roaring train, maybe.
Okay.
Or it might sound silent because the water's been pulled out.
Right.
And that's pretty weird. Imagine camping
Yeah.
at night
Yeah.
near the beach, and all of a sudden you don't hear the ocean anymore.
That would be different.
That would be weird.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you also might hear blowing bubbles, and that's actually from the pressure that's blowing the air out from the sand grains, rock
Interesting.
grains. So if you hear blowing bubbles, that's a little weird.
Okay.
Or clinking rocks, you know, like a rain stick. So those are the sound signs. So the visual is rushing in or rushing out, and roaring especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work to get people and keep people aware of what the tsunami warning signs are and what their risks are around Alaska. And there's a website that can help them do that. Where can they go online to get more information for their school, their home, their church, their business?
Oh, there's several. The National Tsunami Warning Center has a website as well, and the easiest way to look that up is just NTWC.
NTWC.
The
Okay.
URL is not intuitive at all.
Okay.
There's also ready.alaska.gov. The state of Alaska has a lot of helpful stuff. Preparedness kits. They have everything you need to get ready.
Okay.
And then for teachers and others, there's a wonderful curriculum called Alaska Tsunami Education Program.
Alaska Tsunami Education Program. Okay.
And that's AKwx.
AKwx. Okay, very good. Those are really good tips to get more information and search that out and help your own community stay safe with the threat of tsunamis around Alaska. Next time we come back and talk to you some more about the Tsunami Ready program and get more in depth and how people can learn more about the risks and what to do here in Alaska. So thank you for joining us today, Cindy. And next time on Alaska Weather Facts, more on tsunamis around Alaska. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back. Light westerly winds out along the coast, 10 to 15 knots. Seas just 3 to mainly 4 feet. Light northwesterlies at 10 for Clarence Strait. South 15, Stevens Passage. On up through most of Lynn Canal, although in the afternoon, northern Lynn Canal may kick up to 20 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas if that happens. And then for Monday, we'll go with the 20-knot winds there for northern Lynn Canal in the afternoon. Otherwise, northwest 15 for much of the coastline, falling back to 10 knots there in the extreme south coast with 3 to 4 foot seas and just 2 to 3 foot seas over the central and southern inside waters here with rather variable wind directions, but picking up from the south, Stevens Passage with 4 foot seas for northern Lynn Canal. Excuse me, for Prince William Sound, southwest at 10 tomorrow, west-southwest light here for the North Gulf Coast, 10 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas. Light variable winds, Kodiak Island, Chillicothe Strait, the Barrens, Kachemak Bay, south to southwest, 10 to 15 for Cook Inlet. And for Monday, mostly southerly winds now for the inlet at about 15 knots, 3 foot seas, southeast 15 for Kachemak Bay, southwesterlies 15 knots here. Both sides of Kodiak Island, south 15 for the Barrens. Light variable winds continue for the North Gulf Coast through Monday, and light winds also for Prince William Sound. For Bristol Bay, light variable winds tomorrow. Otherwise, for the peninsula, southerlies 20 knots or less with 5 to 6 foot seas. And then from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, kind of a northwest breeze there at 15 with just 3 foot seas. And then for Monday, you've got southwest winds here for the Alaska Peninsula at 20 knots, both sides of the peninsula, falling back to about 15 for Bristol Bay, Castle Cape to Sitkinak, southwest 15 knots or so with 5 foot seas. And for the Fox Islands, southerlies 20 to 25 knots, seas running 5 to 6 feet, so nothing serious there. Southwest 20 for the Central Aleutians, seas a little higher here, 7 feet all the way back out to Shemya. and then pick those winds up. We've got a lot more in the way of small craft advisories with 25-knot winds here from west of Adak, across the central Aleutians, on in across even on Alaska Island, a little lighter on the south side, but still 20-25 knots. Seas now 6 to 8 feet, in some cases as high as 10 feet there, south side Adak and Atka. And for the southwest coast, 25-knot winds, small craft advisories tomorrow. And 6 to 8 foot seas, so seas building out here. Southeast 20 for St. Lawrence Island, could be 25 there also. Definitely for St. Matthew Island, 20 knots, 7 foot seas for the Pribilofs. Monday, south-southwest, southwest a little more prevalent here, and also in closer to the coastline, 20 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas. Up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, actually the central coast, actually the entire coastline here to about Cape Beaufort. Easterlies 20 knots, seas 4 to maybe 5 feet. Then south from Wales to Cape Beaufort at 15. And then for Monday, those pick up to 20 knots here, still out of the south, southeast on the west side, and then easterlies 20 knots for the central coast, and small craft advisories, east 25 there for the eastern coastline with seas up to 5 feet. And looking at tonight again, low clouds and fog, mainly the central and east side there, and staying fair over the north slope. Isolated thunderstorms here near or just south of the Brooks Range near this trough axis and into this low complex. This kind of persisting throughout the night tonight, but not into the Copper River Basin, just variably cloudy, south central Alaska, North Gulf Coast. Not too bad for the Panhandle. Chance of showers, cloudy skies down south, risk of a shower up north. Lots of low clouds, fog, drizzle, IFR, St. Lawrence Island covering much of the Bering Sea with that system coming eastward. And tomorrow, still roughly in about that position with this area lifting due north there. So kind of still a blocking pattern over the interior, holding it back a little bit. And thunderstorms again, mostly north of the Alaska Range, eastern interior, and then a narrow line back to the northwest. Mostly sunny in the west here, partly sunny south central Alaska. And another nice day coming up on Monday.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX brief for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.